Good afternoon. My name is Brent Palmer. I'm with CRT, and we are continuing our series on flow computers, basic measurement principles. Today, we're going to focus a little bit on the FlowX flow computer and go through some basic navigation. So hopefully this will help with your navigation if you're using the FlowX. If not, it'll also show you kind of the inside of the flow computers and what's inside of one, how to get reports out and so forth. So we're going to continue this on. Let's see, somebody may have said something here. Hold on. Nope, we're good. Continuing this series on, and we're asking for more ideas for topics. If there's specific things you want to go over, if you would like to be a presenter, we'd love to hear from you and have you present some of the topics. And after we're all done, all of the videos will go up onto CRT's YouTube channel, and they're available for no cost, absolutely free. They make nice Christmas gifts and birthday gifts. So send them out to your friends, send them out to your family. But we're going to continue on. We'll also start doing some non-live recordings where we're going over specific transmitters, wiring up transmitters to the navigation screens, and get the time of those down a little bit to 5-6 minutes. Just some short snippets so that we can give you some troubleshooting ideas and configuration ideas as we go along. So again, if you've got some ideas for topics, send them to us at CRT, and we will be glad to make a video on them, or if you'd like to, we will help you make a video of them so we can get them up online. All right, so we're going to get started. Today is not a PowerPoint presentation heavy day. Basically, this is the only slide that I have, CRT FlowX basic navigation. This won't be a long introduction to it, so we'll go ahead and get started. And the main way that we typically operate the FlowX is we're just going to use a standard web browser. So by using the web browser, I'm able to put in the IP address of the flow computer up top. In this case, this is 10.1.10.17. I put that in a web browser. Now that can be Chrome, it can be Internet Explorer, Edge, or Firefox, Safari. It's a web browser. It can actually be brought up on your phone in a web browser if your FlowX has connectivity out to the internet. And the first screen that we come to is what we call the home page, or the home screen. Now, without having the proper credentials, there's only so much information that somebody can see on a screen, and it's all configurable about what can be put up there. But it's an icon-driven system. So you see we have some icons up there already that are the in-use values, flow rates, and cumulative totals. So by clicking on those, we're able to see what's going on within the system without logging in. So if I click on in-use totals or in-use values, when I click on this particular flow computer, you can see that we have two runs, run 1 and run 2, and this is inside of a single module. And with run 1, we get some standard information on there. So live process values that are going on inside the flow computer, we're able to see those. If you notice the little blue eye next to the values, that's a little help screen. So if it has one, it'll tell you sometimes some good help, sometimes kind of tells you the same thing that the tag says. But you'll see that it does offer some help, and if I click on it, it'll bring up in a little bit larger view. So up top is our navigation. The globe will bring you back to the home screen. The up arrow will take you up one level. So if I think about these screens, I'm kind of drilling down into folders upon folders upon folders, or levels upon levels. So I can always go back up one level, or by hitting the left arrow, I can go to the screen that I was on before, or the right arrow, I can go to a screen I just came from. So you can see that I haven't gone back, but if I hit back and then forward, it'll take me back to forward to the screen that I was already on. Now, if I hit the normal web browser controls, what that's going to do is just take me completely out of the FlowX. So I actually have to get back into the FlowX either by putting in the IP address or hitting the forward arrow again. Now, once I log into the flow computer, I'll have more menus that are available to me. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And in the case of this flow computer, we set up a very simplistic username and password, which is just the letter A. So I'll hit A for the username, hit enter, and now I'm presenting with a whole list of icons and a navigation bar on the left-hand side. So with the FlowX, the first level that we're at here, this home screen, is meant to be more of an operations and informational area. So if I'm looking for particular information, if I'm doing some operations, I can stay in this upper area and find the information that I need without going into where we're actually doing the configuration on the flow computer. So if I have a question about something simplistic like temperature, pressure, density, this is where an operator or somebody just coming into the system can find out what's going on without having to get in and do any configuration in the system or have access to configuration. So we can restrict the access based upon usernames and passwords and levels of what a user is able to get in. So in this case, let's just go ahead and we'll take a look at flow rates. So by clicking on the flow rate menu icon, I click flow rates and I'll go to run one. And it's going to tell me what direction that I'm going in for run one, what my indicated volume flow rate. And if you attended one of our previous series on basic measurement for volume and mass, you'll understand what the indicated volume, the gross, the mass, the gross standard volume, the net standard volume, and what these units are, what all that means. If you haven't attended that, it's up online. Please go to CRT Services channel on YouTube, and you'll see its basic measurement for volume and mass calculations. If I hit the up arrow, I'll go up one level where I can select whether I want to see the run one, run two, or the station where it's a combination of run one and two. If I hit back up again, I go up one level. If I hit to the left, it'll take me back to the last screen that I was on. Or if I hit the globe, that will always bring me back to the home screen where I can start over in my navigation. One thing else, I'll go into a little bit deeper here. On the left-hand side, I can also click on the navigation bars to navigate through without hitting the icons. And you'll also see up top, right above where it says navigation, it kind of has a descriptor as we drill down into these different screens of where we are. So in this case, we're home, flow rates, and station. So if I go back home, we'll hit home, flow rates, and station, and that will take me right to the same place we were. So it's another way of seeing where you are. You can also click and go back one menu. So let's go into something else. Let's look at totalizers. If I want to see the cumulative totalizers, I have cumulative totalizers for each run and also the station. So I hit run one, and I'm able to see my cumulative totalizers, and they're obviously incrementing. I have some flow going on here. If I go up one and hit run two, I have nothing going on in run two. I can go back up one, hit the station, and the station is totalizing both off run one and run two. Back up again, and I'm back in that sub menu. You can see I'm just in home and then cumulative totals. Hitting the globe, I go back home. And the icons are, for the most part, pretty self-explanatory. If I have something within my system, if it's configured, I'll have an icon for it. If it's not configured, I won't have an icon for it. So if we notice on our main screens, I don't have an icon for sampling. That's because sampling has not been configured yet. It's a function within the application. We just haven't configured it in the configuration, but we have configured proving. Now, if I didn't have proving configured, then I wouldn't see a proving icon up here. So we don't put menus or icons up for devices or functions that are not configured. So to try to keep it less cluttered. So let's go into real quick, if I want to see, let's say, the temperature of the meter run number one, I just click on temperature. And then I can go into run one, and I see the temperature of run one. Go back over, run two, I see the temperature, and it tells me what the run temperature is, and the fact that it's an override in this case, and what the override value is. If it was an analog input, it would say analog. If it was heart, it would be heart. And I can throw it into override at any time. I hit enable. Now, you see that the color changed from gray or white to black, meaning that I have, if I look up here, I have a change, but I haven't applied it yet. So I can either hit the checkbox locally next to it, and that will apply it right to the flow computer, or I can hit apply changes, and this will be that I have multiple changes that I may want to do. So in this case, it's telling you I have one change I want to apply or one change to discard where I don't want to apply it. But if I was also to change, let's say, the override temperature to 85.4, you'll see that I have two changes there. Now when I hit apply, it'll write both of those down to the flow computer, and that's changed within the flow computer what the temperature is that we're in the override value of now. So I'll go back home again, and you'll see a lot of these are the same. Pressure, I have a run 1 and run 2. Density, I have run 1 density, but now I have observed density and all my information for my observed. I have my standard density, which is my density at 60 degrees. And then I have my meter density, which is the calculation from standard to meter. So again, pretty simplistic in the navigation through. If you think about what I'm looking for, this is where I want to go. So if I want to see the flow meter and information on the flow meter, I can go into run 1, look at the pulse input. It's going to tell me what the frequency is of the input, what direction I'm going in, is it active, what my current pulse input flow rate is, and the units per hour. Now, if this is in barrels, we see over on the right-hand side, but if it was in mass, it would be in pounds per hour. Our K factors, how many pulses per unit it is, what meter factor is in use, whether the totalizer are enabled or disabled, and then if it's remote I/O, where the remote I/O is coming from. I'll go back up one more. I can see my meter K factor, and you'll notice there's a pencil next to it. It means that these tags or these parameters are editable. Not that I can eat them, but that I can change them and edit them. So if I needed to change my K factor, this is where I could come in and change the K factor from 1,000 pulses per barrel to 999 pulses per barrel. When I apply that, that's for the forward direction. And right now we're in the forward direction, so it's going to show that I'm doing 999 pulses per barrel is what my K factor is set to. If I want to change that on meter 2, I can either go home and click the home button in the upper left, and that will take me to meter 2, or I can come on the navigation to the left here, click on run 2, go to meter factor, and I can change that one, or K factor I should say, I can change that one to 9966. And that will change that K factor. I write that down. Now that's saved in the flow computer. Now you can see that what it did, it changed the K factor, but when it did it, it rounded because it's only showing 3 decimal places. So actually I messed up the K factor. I put it at 0.9998 when it should have been 9998, like 9998. But I'll do this again so you can see that if I put in a number, 0.9 or 0.69, it's going to round to the 3rd decimal. So if I put 87, it's going to round that 8 up to a 9 when it puts it in. Then we'll go back and change that to 9965. So a pretty large K factor in there. Meter factor, it's going to show you the current meter factors that are in place when it was proved. And again, there's a little icons to tell you some information about the tags or parameters. And then your meter factor history of when it was proved, what the historical factors are, and you can clear out the factors. This is a command down at the bottom, so this will allow you to reset the meter factor history. If I hit that, it brings up a prompt to say, do you really want to do that? If I hit OK, it'll go ahead and wipe out the meter factor history. Batching, we'll go into run 1, and I can control the batch. So right now, I'm allowed to batch end because my parameters have been set up where it allows me to batch end if I have flow. The batch is active. You can see that our batch totals are incrementing. My current batch number is 2, and it's telling me the last date and time that I batch ended and also what the batch start here was. So if I go ahead and issue a batch end command, it'll prompt me, and what I'll do is I'll see my batch total drop to 0. My batch number will increase, and I've just batch ended, and now I have a new report and some information that's available in my historical database to be able to pass on for ticketing. So now you're saying, well, how do I get the reports? It's a good question. If you're always stuck, or if you're stuck in some place and you're not sure where to go, always go back home. So if I click the globe in the upper left hand, that will take me back home. And in this case, so I want to look for my reports. They're probably going to be under reports. Now, which meter am I going to be looking for the reports? Well, let's go to run 1. And it was a batch ticket or a meter ticket. So I'll go to meter tickets. And then when I go in there, there's 2 reports. I can see the date and time that the reports were generated. When I click on a report, it brings down the report. I can view it online, or if I hit save, it will bring the report down as a text file, and I can open that up and look at the text file, see if it has it. There we go. And it brings my report there. I can email it to somebody. Now, if I hit print, it's not going to print to the printer that's associated with my laptop. It's going to print to the printer that's associated with the FlowX, a report printer. So there's a way in FlowExpress, which is our programming software for setting up the FlowXs, there's a way to define where the reports go, which printer they go to. And we can configure those with FlowExpress, which is the next lesson that we'll get into later on today. But for right now, if you hit print and you keep on hitting print and nothing comes out of the printer standing next to you, odds are it's printing out somewhere. I had a company that called me up and said that they've hit print about 40 times, but they are not getting any reports out. And at the same time, they had their control center call them up and say, hey, we've got about 40 of these meter tickets that are printing out. We don't know where they're coming from. And here, every time the guy was hitting the print button, it was printing to downtown Houston to their control center. So the local print button prints out to the FlowX assigned printer, not to your printer. So I'm going to go back home. Now, inside the Flow computer, we also have what we call historical data. Historical data is an SQL-like database where we're able to store that information, let's say that's on reports or other information. And when a period of time or an event happens, we can store that information inside of a database. So in this case, those batches that we just created that are on a ticket, we also can go in and store those in an historical database. When I go into run 1 and I go to a batch, you'll see that I created this historical database inside the same time I created that batch report or ticket. When I click on this, I can see the tags that I saved and also the value when they were saved. So this is the information from that batch. And again, it's stored in a database. But we store a lot more information, or have the ability to store a lot more information inside this database than we do inside of a ticket, just kind of a printed ticket. So this information, when we pass it along to our excellent system or to AutoSol, they're actually pulling this database. They're not going over and pulling a report. So they'll get it out of, like I said, like an SQL database. So that information will be saved in there. There's a records retention that you can set up. So it'll save it by the number of files or for a certain amount of time, let's say a year. So for every batch that happens, you'll be able to go back almost a year and see what the values were when that batch occurred. You also see that we have historicals for recalculated batches, for daily, for period A, and I'll get into periods in a second. But you can set up your own historical archives inside here, and we can start capturing other information, whether it's from smart meter reports, or if we have an alarm go off, we can start data logging information. All kinds of different things can be turned into historical databases. So this is where you find them, and this is where you're able to view the information, is underneath historical data. Going over to periods real quick, the FlowX has the ability to store period data. So inside, we have a few different kinds of periods. We have a day, we have an hour, we have current period A and current period B and previous period B and previous period A. What these are is A and B are user configurable. So I'm able to go in and set, let's say, the period up for an hour, or set it up for a day, or set it up for a month, or pretty much is very configurable on what you can do with it. So you can set these up where I'm doing a batch, and I'm doing a batch every day at midnight, but my day ends at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have a day running from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then I can set period A up for, let's say, if my customer's day runs from midnight to midnight, I can set up another set of flow weighted averages and totals for the customer that run from midnight to midnight. And then if I have a whole month's worth of data, I can set up another period where I have totalizers and flow weighted averages for the entire month, where at the end of the month it stops it and then puts it in the previous. So everything you see here, I have my current information that's going on. So I can see my current day, what my totals have been so far for the day, or I can go in and see the previous day, which there's not much going on, and then my current hour. And pretty much what happens is when these periods end, the current goes to the previous, and what was in the previous goes out the door. But you can set up historical data and start capturing this information and storing these in there. So every time I go through an hour or go through a day, that information's saved in the historical database. The last thing I'm going to cover real quick, well, actually two things. We're going to cover two things really, really quick. The next thing is going to be the audit trail. One of the most important things inside of a flow computer is an audit trail. So the audit trail is where we're able to see when information happens, events happen, alarms happen, things like that happen inside the flow computer. We have an audit trail that saves between 5,000 to 6,000 of the last events. So in the audit trail, when I went in and I issued a batch end for number one, it basically recorded that I issued the batch end and what command I did. You can see that all the parameters that have been changed, and also has recorded when the parameters were changed, the date and time, by what user they were changed by. In this case, I just logged in with the letter A, and then what my security level was. I have a 10,000 security level because I'm really important. No, it's just by whatever I set up that user within the system. So it also gives you, when I log in, it gives you the IP address of the web browser that logged in, what machine it came from. So we've got some information to be able to track down. So I have my as found, I have my as left, or what it was changed to, and then anything that affects measurement is recorded inside this audit trail. The same way every time the flow computer starts, stops, shut down, something happens in it, we'll see this within the audit trail. And then this audit trail is configurable as far as what type of totalizers I want to save in there, or if there's other information I want to save when an event occurs. And I can also pull the flow computer and receive this audit trail back using our Flow Express software. So the last thing I'm going to show you real quick is also when you have smart devices. So the FlowX has the ability to have communication to smart devices. So we have some custom templates that we build, and if you have a smart device talking serially or over Ethernet, the FlowX can pull it and use the information within the FlowX, or bring you back additional diagnostics information from the device. And in some cases, if it's a ABB device, you're actually able to configure the device through the FlowX flow computer. So I'll give you an example of that. If I go into communications, and let's say I pick an ABB Coriolis meter. On that ABB Coriolis meter, I'm able to actually go in and start setting it up. So I can go in, if I'm connected to it, and set what the units are, the volume units, the mass flow rate, and it's all sent down to the Coriolis meter. So without using software and cable, as long as I have a connection with the flow computer, I can go in and set it up, or I can verify the configuration and see the configuration live within it without having to have secondary software and cables and local connectivity to be able to connect to the meter. So most of the devices we connect to, we are at least going to give you some diagnostic information. So we'll go in and look at something like back in communications, if I went to an E&H ProMass. So with the E&H ProMass, you're going to be able to go in and see the meter statuses. So we're going to bring back system conditions within there. We'll bring back diagnostics information. So what the flow rates are, the tube dampening and so forth. So we're able to see this live within the flow computer. We have controlled access to it. And then we can also set up some reporting and alarms if we want to set variables in here to say, well, if I see the drive gain go so high, I can create an alarm within the flow computer and reference it out to SCADA to say something's going on with the tube dampening within this device. The same way with, that's the ProMass. I put a micromotion in here so we can pull back micromotion information so we can see the live status on the micromotions if we have them. And then also Rosemont's MVT, so the 4088, we're able to do verification, calibration, simulation, pull back diagnostic information from multivariables. If it's smart, you can build a communications template to talk to it. We build them for GCs, for tank gauges, for a lot of other devices that are out there, but you can pretty much pull just about anything if it speaks Modbus with the FlowX and create a custom display for it so you can display the information in the web browser, put it on a report, and put it on Modbus. So that's the basic navigation. We'll do more advanced navigation in some lessons that come up, but this is just a brief overview of the main operations screen and how to get some basic information out of the Flow computer. So I'm going to ask if are there any questions that I can answer, and I'll look over real quick. One, because I've got a phenomenal side view, and number two, that's where my other screen is, so I can see if we've got any questions coming up. And I do not see any. But if you have questions about navigation, if you have questions about any of the other topics that we've gone over, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Reach out to our website at CRT Services. And if there's any information that we can help with, any questions that we can answer, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Really appreciate everybody taking the time this afternoon to join in with this. The video will be posted up online, and I hope everybody stays safe out there, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you.